They say the ocean is Earth's final frontier, a realm darker and more mysterious than space itself. But beneath its crushing depths, something is stirring, something ancient, something alive. In 1997, a single sound shook the scientific world. It was not made by any machine, nor by nature's fury. It was alive. Tonight, we dive deeper than ever before, into the abyss where sunlight has never touched, to uncover the terrifying truth behind the sound that should not exist. The story begins in the summer of 1997, when the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, deployed a network of underwater microphones across the Pacific Ocean. Their purpose was simple: to listen, to capture the language of the deep, the groaning of tectonic plates, the cracking of icebergs, the songs of whales drifting for hundreds of miles. But on a quiet day in July, the microphones captured something that changed everything. It was loud, much louder than anything they had ever recorded before. A deep, organic roar that rippled through the water, like thunder rolling beneath the waves. It lasted barely a minute, but in that minute, it traveled more than 5,000 kilometers. Scientists called it the bloop. At first they laughed. It must be an ice quake, a glacier breaking apart somewhere far to the south. But the frequency was wrong. The waveform was too smooth, too deliberate. Nature did not make sounds like this, at least not nature as we knew it. And so questions began to surface. If not ice, what was it? If not geology, then biology? The deeper they looked, the stranger it became. The sound signature was undeniably biological. That meant it came from a living creature. But to create a sound so powerful, one that could be heard from one end of the Pacific to the other, the source would have to be bigger than a blue whale. And that was impossible. Or so they thought. Over the next few weeks, the bloop returned. Sometimes faint, sometimes strong, but always from the same location, a remote patch of ocean nearly 2,000 kilometers west of South America, a place with no islands, no known seamounts, no reason for anything to be there. The media caught wind of it and speculation ran wild. Was it a colossal squid screaming beneath the waves? A prehistoric leviathan stirring from an ancient slumber? Some whispered darker theories that the sound was a warning. A territorial call? Marine biologists grew uneasy. Something alive was down there, something we had never seen. And it was not just alive, it was listening. One researcher, Dr. Helen Corbett, described the sound this way. It's as if the ocean itself is breathing, as if something vast and ancient is stirring beneath the surface, and it knows we're here. The idea that humanity, masters of Earth, could be unaware of a creature so massive, so powerful, lurking just beneath the surface of our own planet, was terrifying. Yet, in the darkness beneath the waves, our ignorance was total. The bloop eventually faded from the headlines, dismissed as unexplained but harmless. But NOAA's hydrophones never stopped listening. And deep beneath the water, something never stopped calling. By the early 2000s, the bloop had become more than a mystery. It was an obsession. Scientists, military agencies, and even private corporations were pouring resources into understanding what could create such a colossal sound. Yet, for all their effort, the source remained elusive. The ocean, after all, is a stubborn keeper of secrets. In 2004, a research vessel named Abyss Explorer was dispatched to investigate the coordinates where the sound originated. It was equipped with state-of-the-art sonar, deep-sea drones, and a crew of 42 oceanographers, biologists, and engineers. Their mission: descend deeper than anyone had before and solve the mystery once and for all. The first few days were uneventful. Calm seas, routine readings. But on the fourth night, the ship's sonar operator reported something strange, a moving object. APPROXIMATOY 300 meters long, traveling slowly at a depth of over 5,000 meters. It wasn't a submarine. It wasn't geological. It was alive. The crew watched in silence as the blip on the sonar pulsed and shifted, gliding through the darkness. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. The next day, they launched the first drone into the abyss. As the machine descended past 4,000 meters, the light from the surface vanished. Darkness swallowed everything. The temperature dropped. Pressure built, and then, the sound returned. It was deeper now, slower, rhythmic, like the beating of a massive heart. Buried beneath miles of water, the crew listened, transfixed and terrified. The bloop was not random. It had a pattern. A pulse, almost. A language. Minutes later, the drone's camera picked up movement. At first, it was just a flicker, a shadow crossing the edge of the light. Then another. And another. Something enormous was circling the drone just out of sight. Then the feed cut to static. When the drone was recovered 2 days later, its titanium hull was crushed as though gripped by an unimaginable force. The steel frame bent inward. The sensors were torn apart, and deep grooves, long, parallel slashes, were etched into the metal, as if something with claws had touched it. The mood aboard the Abyss Explorer shifted from scientific curiosity to fear. No one wanted to go back down. But the mission could not be aborted. Too much was at stake. On day 9, they launched a second drone, this one equipped with stronger lights and reinforced plating. It didn't return. At 2:37 a.m., the sonar detected movement again. This time it was closer. The shape was enormous, over 500 meters long, moving slowly but deliberately. It circled the vessel, keeping its distance, but each pass brought it nearer. Then the sound changed. It was no longer a distant rumble. It was a roar, a guttural, rising call that made the ship's hull vibrate. It was as if the ocean itself was screaming. The crew was terrified. Some believed it was a warning. Others thought it was curiosity. But Dr. Corbett, the mission's lead scientist, had a darker interpretation. "It's not calling out," she said. "It's listening back." On the 10th day, tragedy struck. A small submersible carrying 3 researchers, Dr. Corbett among them, was launched for a direct observation dive. It descended past 5,500 meters and was never heard from again. The last transmission from the submersible was only 3 words. "It's beneath us." Then silence. The Abyss Explorer returned to port weeks later, its mission incomplete. Officially, the incident was classified as a technical failure. Unofficially, whispers spread through the scientific community. Whispers of an intelligence deeper and older than anything humanity had ever imagined. Something vast. Something watching. And the bloop was only the beginning. The disappearance of the Abyss Explorer submersible was never publicly explained. Governments denied involvement, official reports were sealed, and witnesses were silenced under strict non-disclosure agreements. But in the dark corners of scientific circles, rumors grew, whispers of a discovery so profound, so terrifying that humanity might never be ready to face it. The bloop was no isolated phenomenon. By 2010, similar sounds were detected in the Atlantic, the Indian, and even the Arctic oceans. They shared the same pulse, the same rhythm, a deep, resonant call, sometimes faint, sometimes deafening. But more unsettling was their pattern. The signals appeared to be coordinated, as if multiple sources were communicating across thousands of miles. It was no longer a mystery. It was a network. The prevailing theory, spoken only in hushed conversations, was simple and horrifying. The bloop wasn't one creature. It was many, and they were awakening. Ancient myths suddenly seemed less like fiction. Tales of Leviathan of Tiamat, of monstrous gods sleeping beneath the waves. Perhaps they weren't legends, but fragmented memories of encounters long forgotten. Humanity, in its arrogance, believed the ocean belonged to it. But the truth was far older and far more terrifying. The ocean has always belonged to them. In 2017, a classified joint mission between several nations attempted to investigate one of these nodes, a location where the signals seemed to converge. The operation was codenamed Project Hadal. No footage was ever released. No results were ever made public. But one piece of leaked audio from the expedition surfaced briefly on an encrypted forum. Its authenticity has never been verified, but what it contained was enough to freeze the blood of anyone who heard it. The recording was faint, distorted by water pressure, but unmistakable, a sound like thunder, followed by something far worse. A voice. Not human, not mechanical, but deliberate. A deep, resonant sequence of tones that repeated in measured intervals. It wasn't random. It wasn't nature. It was language. And then silence. The forum post vanished hours later. The user who uploaded it was never heard from again. By 2020, deep-sea probes began disappearing at alarming rates. Autonomous drones sent to the depths returned crushed, twisted, or didn't return at all. In some cases, sensors detected immense heat and movement just before contact was lost, as though something enormous was stirring far below. Then came the satellite anomalies. Entire sections of the Pacific Ocean showed subtle but undeniable rises in sea level, not due to climate change but due to displacement. Something below was moving, something colossal. And the bloop? It wasn't a roar anymore. It had changed, evolving into long, drawn-out calls that carried a strange, almost mournful tone. Marine biologists speculated it might be a mating call. Others feared it was a signal, a beacon. And then the earthquakes began. In 2023, a series of undersea quakes shook the Pacific Basin. They were unlike any tectonic activity ever recorded, shallow, irregular, pulsing, and at their epicenter, the same coordinates where the original bloop was heard in 1997. The world's navies converged on the region. Submarines patrolled the abyss. Satellites scanned the waves. But nothing could prepare humanity for what happened next. On September 9, 2023, an automated deep-sea camera, positioned near the epicenter, transmitted one final image before it was destroyed. The image was blurry, distorted by silt and darkness. But one thing was clear. A massive eye, larger than a human city, staring directly into the camera lens. It blinked, and the feed went dead. We once believed that we were alone at the top of Earth's food chain, that nothing beneath the waves could rival our dominion. But perhaps we were never truly alone. Perhaps the silence of the ocean was never silence at all, but the sound of something ancient, patient, and far beyond our understanding, waiting. And maybe, just maybe, it is not we who are discovering them. It is they who have been watching us all along.